Right, we're going to move on to the next session. It's 45 minutes, so it's quite a short one, just before lunch. And it's all about managing staff. So, yeah, I'm just going to hand over to Dell, who's going to take you through that.
I think we've had a little change, so I think in your booklet it'll be KPIs and bonus, but we're going to jump it around a little bit, so you're not missing out on your KPIs and bonus. That'll come a little bit later on in the day. So, what is management? The ability to motivate an individual or an entire team to strive towards a specific goal. Can anybody give us an example of bad management, poor management? Perfect. We talked about fairness. No fairness and favouritism, I'm afraid.
Constructive dismissal.
Yes.
Where you just so horrible to somebody that they leave because you're so horrible to them.
Yeah.
Losing your rag and telling them to F off.
Don't ask Sean if it's bad.
I think you did well.
No, it absolutely is and could end you up in a tribunal also, so let's not forget about that. Regardless of what you want to do, sometimes it's got to keep that inside and he's going to get it and I'm going to go in. Other ideas?
Setting unrealistic goals and targets.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah. And often we won't acknowledge that, but actually what is, and we're going to talk about that in a bit more detail, how do we make it realistic? How do we get buy-in? So we're going to talk about that. No, but you're right, could be deemed constructive in some ways.
Or the complete opposite and not setting any expectations or like for the role or anything.
Love
like
that.
the goal.
And part of your Investors and People Goal Award that we got is, what they look at is, how does every employee know what you expect from them? And we were really nervous about it the second time round we got the accreditation, because we got to do far less of the talking, and actually they went and had private conversations with lots of members of staff and sent them personal questionnaires, and I'm thinking, oh no, please let everything we're doing filtered through, and I kind of sat there like that, because in fairness, if it didn't, that absolutely would have been on my head, and understandably so. So definitely people understanding what we expect from them, because how do we know if we're doing well if we don't know what the goal is? It's unfair really, isn't it? Any other ideas? Bad management?
For me, I'm guilty of letting people away with things.
Giving them an easy ride. Because in fairness, where's their development if you're not giving constructive feedback?
And then what eventually happens is I just sack them because they haven't done the things that I've let them get away with.
And you end up doing something at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fairness, what you're doing is you're setting expectations that if you allow a member of staff to get away with something, you've set an expectation. So in the same way we held that member of staff accountable and said, actually, I saw this from you at the start and it's changed. So you set some expectations and that your performance was here and your attitude was here. Over time, I've seen that. In fairness, your member of staff could say, I feel really unfairly done to now, because for all this time, you've let me meander along doing exactly the same thing, and all of a sudden now it's unacceptable. That's not fair. And they're right.
Yeah.
They are right. So you bang on. Some lovely ideas there. What does... Go on, yes.
Not leading by example, I've always found.
Yeah.
Because they're quick to say, well, you went home at 4 o'clock, you turned up without a tie on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think the key to that is as well, we can sometimes feel frustrated because we can think as a management team, as business owners, why should I not be able to go home at 4 o'clock? The difference being is, if you lead by example and do the right actions, and sometimes the right actions are leading a team, telling them the direction you're going in, you know, letting them know there will be some flexibility for you, because I probably work at 9 o'clock that night. But I think if your team are motivated, you won't be met with, you need to do what I'm doing, because you'll have sat yourself there. Sometimes you'll hear staff members talk to managers and compare themselves, and you sit and kind of go, why are you comparing yourself to me? Well, because you don't do that. Okay then, do you work till 9 o'clock on an evening? Do you, you know, are you responsible for whether or not this branch performs? Are you responsible for everybody getting paid at the end of the month? Well, no, exactly. So let's not pretend we're on an even keel, because we're not. So you're right, but on the flip side, what does a good manager look like?
You.
Give him a bottle of wine. Flattery will get you everywhere. No, I appreciate that. I guess it's the opposite of what we've talked about. It is setting expectations. It is having difficult conversations. It is giving constructive feedback. It's all of those things. It's fairness. It's not having favourites. I think it's a very difficult thing to do, to be friends with somebody you work with. I don't know. Has anybody been friends with somebody they've worked with and it's bit them on the bum? It's your biggest lesson, and don't get me wrong, it's your hardest lesson sometimes because of exactly that reason. You thought they were friends and actually it turns out they weren't. It hasn't made us a miserable cow with no friends, honest. But what it has definitely done is it's a very finite ability to be able to have a relationship with somebody in work and have a personal relationship with them outside of work. If you can nail it, fantastic. You'll actually find you'll get more from that staff member because they'll have a respect from you professionally and they'll have a respect from you personally. The time that you will change that is when you treat them differently because they're your friend. So actually it's not the actions that they do, it's the expectations that you set. I know I was friendly with a girl at work who was a portfolio manager, not a manager. I didn't deal with her day to day. She was managed by another member of staff. But what she absolutely knew was our relationship outside of work, our friendship, had nothing to do with inside of work, except from I possibly expected a little bit more from her, because actually she wouldn't just be letting us down on a professional level, she'd be letting us down on a personal level as well. But it is a very finite kind of line that you walk, and it's a skill, definitely. If you cannot master it, choose not to have them, because it will bite you on the bum eventually. Very rarely does it not.
With that situation, so I was looking at my staff and I was thinking of promoting one of them to be a staff manager. At the moment he's on an equal level with somebody who he's quite friendly with, so I've got lettings manager, sales manager, and I'd like to promote the lettings manager eventually to branch manager. And I wonder then, because he's the one that's going to have the one-to-ones with the sales manager, how that would affect their relationship.
You need to ask him that question.
Yeah.
So if you are considering giving them promotion, what you need to be upfront with is, I'm considering this, I think you've got a great skill set around it, and the only thing that would possibly concern us is how you would deal with that personal relationship. What do you think you might have to do? Again, what he'll do is he'll tell you the right things at this point. He'll say, oh, well, we'd have a line and I wouldn't treat them any differently. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. And then what you're going to have to do is measure and monitor that. And if you ever see any activities that lead you to believe, oh, hang on, you haven't pulled him up on something, you pulled that other person up on, you have the conversation, you talk about, we knew it was going to be difficult, you assured me, you knew exactly what you needed to do, why we're not seeing it. So again, just set some expectations, have the conversation before it's happened.
Okay.
The benefits of good management: enhancing staff's team and strengths and improving upon their weaknesses. Use fun and engaging activities to keep everyone motivated and boost morale. And I think again that can be a difficult balance to strike. I know when I very first started off, one of my first jobs, I had the most fantastic manager, and she was one of the only female managers I've had, but she was phenomenal. She was probably in her 30s at the time, and she had the ability to be able to have crack with staff, but she had the absolute ability to change that in an instant, and people knew what they needed to get on with. Again, it's understanding, do you have the ability to do that? If you don't, and it's impacting what you're doing, maybe consider having a little bit less of it, or look at some of the tools you can use to kind of go, right guys, we need to get back on, but it is something that will impact you, so make sure that you've got a good balance of it, but don't let yourself tip the scales also. And then advanced communication skills also. Communication. It is by far one of the most, if not the most, skills required in leadership and management. A lot of the things we've talked about is communication. One-to-ones, reviews, training, coaching, it's all communication, and we need to be really effective at communicating, and we need to communicate regularly is one of the things that I would say. Types of communication that you can have and you should be having if you're not already having them is morning meetings, also known as daily huddles that we have, short bursts of kind of set you on your way, what I call them. I come in on the morning, gather the team round together. Right, okay, Kaylee, what are your actions for the day? Well, I need to do some of your ears, there's a couple of people I need to speak to. You had that issue yesterday, you didn't manage to get finished. Are we starting with that today? Yeah, absolutely, brilliant, okay. Next, does anybody foresee any problems today? Is there any support I'm going to need to give anybody? Straight away, you're engaging with them, you're interested in what their day looks like. I think a morning huddle should be short and snappy. Do not allow it to be somewhere that people air their concerns about. It's not a bitching session, I'm afraid. It's where we talk about positive, productive things, that what it looks like for that day. Not for the week, not for the month, that's for appraisals, reviews, one-to-ones. It's what am I going to accomplish today. What you do the next day is, you'll have made notes, Kaylee's going to do this, 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 and then the next day you start with a review of the previous activities. So, Kaylee, you were going to get onto that landlord about that repair. Did we get that resolved? Yeah, I got that. If we didn't get that resolved, why? Okay, can I expect you to resolve it today? Fantastic. If no is a problem, great, I'll see you after the morning huddle. So it just gives people them little bits of motivation to get them started on their day. Yes, go on.
How long would that daily huddle take?
John would say minutes, realistically for me.
About a minute a person.
Yeah, depending on your staff members, 15 minutes max. Performance reviews. I do performance reviews weekly. So my performance reviews are, I set targets on a monthly basis, which we're going to look at within one-to-ones. But I'll set a monthly set of targets. I didn't used to do this, but we introduced this about a year or so ago. What I found frustrating is I can set a monthly target if I don't see them again till the end of the month. If there's been a problem, I haven't been allowed to fix it, coach it, support with it, identify it till the end. It's no good. I've got a new P&L at that stage and it's not what I wanted to see. So we do weekly appraisals basically. Now what that looks like is, again, it's not a one-to-one. It is a short burst of, right, okay, ever many weeks we've got in that month. Our end goal was this. I'll kind of know, right, if I divide that by the weeks, we should have this, and I'll know whether or not they're in target on those particular areas. If they're smashing target in an area but lagging behind in another one, we look at, right, okay, what do we need to do? Well, I've got an accompanied viewer off at the minute, and it's affecting viewing, so I haven't had as many applications, right, what can we do to fix it? I guarantee you with some people, I'd get an excuse at the end of the month why we hadn't had those amount of applications. I don't want an excuse. I want to be able to resolve it at the time. What some people do is they'll only act with what they see as their remit. I've got an accompanied viewer, he's off or he's been off sick or whatever else, and I haven't had as much cover, and this one won't use her own car because we haven't got business. What I'll do is, though, week one, if I can see, oh, what's happening here, or week two, I can see what's happening here, I'll pull resources from elsewhere, which is something you'd be responsible for doing. Yeah. Sometimes it is just a case of it's a little bit quiet at the moment. Right, okay, so what activities are we doing? So I taught them about, do we need to up our prospecting? You're doing an hour a day. Do we need to do 2 hours of the day because it's a little bit quiet, kids are off or whatever else that is. So it just allows you to measure and focus your energies in the right place.
And those performance reviews would be not one-to-one, but one-to-one conversations.
Yes, one-to-one conversations, exactly right, yeah. I expect the managers to have the same conversations with their staff. So at the point that I roll out targets to the branch managers, they'll then divide those targets between their staff members. So whilst I'm reviewing their performance and where they are, I expect them to take that back. Now what they'll know is, if they're below where they need to be in terms of applications, for instance, and I'm a bit worried, what they'll probably know is they've got 2 members of staff sat in branch, and actually all 3 of those applications came from this person hasn't had any. So their area of focus, they should by rights come to me and go, I'm not too worried about that because she's pulling her weight, she isn't, and I'm already kicking her ass, so I'm not too worried about it. So the view that I take is I go, should I be concerned? No, Adele, I've got it in hand. You'll see by the end of the month that that's going to pay off. So I guess it depends on where your business is and what the structure is. I'd be much more hands-on if I was managing the portfolio managers. I give a bit more trust when I'm managing managers in that you're going to give me the right, you're not going to pull the wool, because in fairness I'm going to kick your ass at the end of the month. So, but I do expect you, if you need to ask for support, that you'll ask for it.
How long should those be?
Realistically, half an hour maximum. The only reason I would allow even half an hour is sometimes what you'll get off the back of that for me is I'll end up with that scenario, for instance, where I've got 3 applications, so by rights, if the other person had given us the 3 I'd targeted her with, I'd be on target. Okay, what are you doing about it then? I'll have a real difficulty, and I'll have a conversation like some of the conversations we've had here, where I'll give ongoing coaching and say, right, what you need to do is take this tact. And so I allow a little bit longer because I'm managing managers. If I was managing portfolio managers, it would be similar, and then I'd say, okay, why are you not getting renewals? Because I've just had a review with Kaylee and she's got our renewals. You manage the same amount of properties, so what do you think that you're doing differently? I just think she's a bit more pushy. All right, okay. Could you therefore buddy up with Kaylee and look at some of the conversations that she's having, because regardless of how she's having them, our results are better. So I'm sure you don't want to lag behind, so about I buddy you up, and it'll be a little note, it'll be a bit of a coaching session. If there was nobody there to coach her, I'd sit down and coach her and say, let's have a look, you do the conversation, right, okay, she'd come off the phone and I'd go, right, I think we can make improvements here and here. Have the conversation again and make those tweaks. More effective, again, more effective. Right, we've got the results. You feel happy now? Yes, I do. So I allow a little bit extra to give a bit of coaching if and where needed. But you could, I've known them last 10 minutes. Someone's come in and went, right, it's week 2, we're halfway through the month. I'm ahead of where I need to be. I know what I've got in the pipeline, and I know I'm going to hit target until I'm happy. Fantastic. It just depends. But half an hour, I think, max. Skills matrix reviews quarterly. That's another thing that you should and could be doing in terms of your communication.
How long do you think a one-to-one should be? I know it depends on what you're talking about.
If you're doing where I've talked about with performance reviews being weekly, a monthly one-to-one realistically needs to be at least, you need to leave an hour for a monthly one-to-one. And an hour, in fairness, is with you doing the prep beforehand. We didn't talk to you about one-to-one, so I don't kind of want to skip ahead, but we'll talk about it and you'll see what the structure is for those and how they can take up to an hour. I've known them. I think I had one not so long ago with a manager in Easington who is going down a potentially capability route, and that was longer than that, and we had some issues there that were chunkier that we need. At the end of the day, it's one of the biggest parts and most effective parts of your management. If it takes longer, it takes longer. So one thing that I can say, might not spend 2 hours typing an email at 4 o'clock in the morning. Your one-to-ones are crucial. Don't meander on though, make sure they're effective, but make sure if you need to spend the time, you need to spend the time on it.
And would you do the skills matrix review instead of a one-to-one? Is it sort of, is that month that you're doing the skills matrix review, is that your one-to-one?
No, I'll just include it within your one-to-one, because you'll still have your format of your one-to-one that you've got to do, but we'll be looking at redoing your skills.
You wouldn't have another meeting for it, no?
No, let's not have meetings for meetings' sake, it's too many already. Hands-on, I was meant to say hands-on day-to-day. We don't need to wait for one-to-one to have a conversation. In fact, sometimes we shouldn't wait for one-to-one to have a conversation. And I'd sometimes use that as a cop-out when I start doing my one-to-ones. I'd see something I didn't like, I'd be frightened about tackling it, and because I knew everybody would go quiet when I tackled it, and I knew it would lead to door slamming and file dumping and for the rest of the day, so I'd go, I'll bring that up in my one-to-one. Nonsense. If somebody does something that either they need praise for and it's in the moment, there's nothing like sometimes in the moment the impact of that. By the time you get to one-to-one, it's lost its impact. If there's a moment where you need to go, absolutely. When I talked to you yesterday about Kaylee and trying to improve her customer service, I would, if I saw her display that, I would openly say, I'm just getting goosebumps off what you've just done there. I never thought you'd be in a position to handle that the way you did, and I am so proud of you, well done. That would not have had the same impact if I'd have waited 3 weeks till my next one-to-one with her. Likewise, if I see something that I absolutely can't accept, then I'll just say there and then, I'll either do it in front of people if I need to and go, what was that? Do you mean? Why did somebody just walk in our branch there and I watched you and every single one of you put your heads down? It's only me actually got up to say to them, why would that happen? I didn't know I did it, and I've seen loads of people this morning. Is it acceptable? What I expect all of you to do, the point that door opens, is look up and put a smile on your face. Should be looking and going, oh, who do I see to first? Not acceptable. Things like that, again, I wouldn't wait till the end of the month to do a one-to-one to do that. It needs tackling then and there. Because failing that, what you've got to appreciate is, what's the impact of not giving the reward? What's the impact of not having the conversation? Can you accept everybody doing that if somebody walks in for the next 3 weeks? No, so I'm going to change it now, yeah? There's nothing wrong with bringing it up in your one-to-one again to reiterate. And also what I would expect you to do off the back of that is, if you've had those types of conversations, is to say, I'm pleased to say I've not seen that again. Can you understand why I had to pull you up at the time? Yeah, it was bad, brilliant. Pleased to say you've changed it immediately, well done. Performance reviews. You're highlighting any areas of concern. You're putting corrective measures in place, which is what we've talked about in terms of if you need to give somebody new direction, new focus, that's what we're doing. We're understanding trends within the business as well, because what we can do is look at actually at other people in the industry seeing this. So do I actually just appreciate that, you know, this is having an impact? And so it's understanding what you can influence and what you can't influence and what actions you should be taking off the back of it. Preempt any downward trends and allow you to act on them as quickly as possible. And it allows you to give feedback also. But again, much shorter and snappier. What you potentially can get overwhelmed with is, right, I've got a morning huddle to do, I've got a weekly review to do, I've got a monthly one-to-one to do, I've then got a quarterly skills matrix. As soon as you start doing them consistently, you'll build up a routine and it'll get easier and easier and easier. And what you'll also have is the consistency of being able to rely on your previous month. So what becomes really easy when you first do your prep for your first one-to-one, it's tricky because you've got to look at so many different areas and you're assessing so many different things. When you come to do it the next time round, you've already said what you're expecting. So what you're doing is, so last month we discussed, I'm pleased to say actually, I've seen an area of improvement. How have you felt about that? Yeah, well, what you said has been really positive. Fantastic. So can I expect to see that moving forward all the time? Yeah, brilliant. That becomes an expectation that you set. So it becomes much, much easier to manage once you get your routines going. Key features of your appraisals are preparation. Preparation is key. Don't go into an appraisal, a one-to-one, without any preparation. Don't go in without any evidence. Don't go in with, I feel like. It's rubbish. Because, and honestly, I've been met with this before, is sometimes you don't expect, what you can do is take a bit of a cop out and go, I'm going to give them positive feedback, so because I haven't done a lot of prep, so they're not really going to challenge that, so yeah, we'll get this over and done with. I need to do a one-to-one, so I think you've been doing really, really well. I've been met before with, do you? Oh, I think I've had a rubbish month. You know, straight away, it doesn't matter that you were going to praise them for something, you've just lost valuable, because as far as they can see, you're meant to be invested in what it is that they're doing. You didn't even know that they'd had a difficult month and they haven't performed very well. You lose so much respect off the back of that. So if you can't prep for a one-to-one, postpone it. Don't just do it on a wing and a prayer. Got to be evidence-based. So in this situation, I did prepare for it, so it was absolutely fine. So at the point that she said, I think I've had a rubbish month. Really? Why? I just think we've struggled this month and I didn't hit my target on my applications, right? Fair to say you hit your target in every other area, yeah? Fair to say you exceeded your target in those two areas, yeah? Fair to say also all the things we talked about last month about your communication and how you could improve that. I've seen, have you? I'm going to tell you something that I use all the time, and you might want to use it, you might not, but for me it was invaluable. When I was a branch manager, I was also a valuer. And I was also out of the office a lot in appointments, meetings, whatever else. What I understood is that it was difficult sometimes to get to the end of the month. And yes, I had my figures to go off and they're fantastic. But I would get a feel for something and I would kind of think, Kaylee's not performing as well as she normally does. And she just seems a little bit down with things. And I knew that because she'd been a little bit down and a bit more negative, it had definitely impacted her performance. But I couldn't give any really tangible examples of that. So when I was kind of saying, I just feel like, you get somebody who'll go, I disagree, I've been fine. Now, the way to get around that is, what I did was, I had just a book, it's similar to this, a binder, and it had little tabs on the side, and on the back would be one-to-one prep. And I'd have split the page in two, and I'd have a happy face and a sad face. every time I'd have a member of staff's name at the top of each page. Every time I saw something that I liked, heard something that I liked, I would put it in a smiley face. So if it was something I was working on with Kaylee, where I'd be working on a customer service, if she did the little things like I started, she closed a conversation with, "It's been really nice speaking to you today," I'd put "really nice speaking to you" and the date and the time. If there's something that I've been working on and she didn't do that, I'd put "unhappy face" and I'd put "didn't close the call with a positive lasting impression" and the date and the time. Now, what you'll find is through the course of the month, that page will fill up. And what it'll do is the gut feeling that you get, your page will display. So what you'll find is your gut feeling's telling you, she's not where I want her to be, and I feel like, I know our performance is down, and I feel like some of the stuff that we've covered, she's not implementing, but I haven't, you know, I've been in and out, and like I can't really remember what I did yesterday, let alone at the beginning of the month. When you turn to that, what you'll find is, yeah, actually my gut is right, because I'm not seeing that from her, and actually this tells us. So when you sit with somebody and you say, "I just feel like there's been an attitude change," disagree. Okay then. Well, what I saw from you the other day was the 8th, about 12:45, you did this. I am telling you now, the impact of being able to give a date and a time and something that happened is magical, because they will never question you again, because all of a sudden, right, okay, she knows what she's doing, she really is watching us, she really does know. But likewise, it's really lovely when it works in the other, and people go, "I've really struggled with it, I just don't think I'm you, and I'm not able to communicate the way you are." Oh, that's a real shame, because I tell you what I've seen you do this with Mr. and Mrs. Smith the other day, and I absolutely loved it. I saw you do this, and what was the impact of that? They came in the other day with a box of chocolate. When was the last time you got a box of chocolate? Yeah, I guess they did. All of a sudden you see them, and they've started like that, and it's absolutely brilliant. So if you can, and you've got an absolute machine at remembering things, just remember it, it's fine. But for me, that was one of the tools that I used. Yes.
How would you handle that if I manage staff across 2 branches? So if I say, "Oh, on the 8th at 12:45 you did this," and then you say, "Yeah, that was a one-off, and that's not reflective of what I was doing for the rest of the month." And to be fair, I genuinely don't always know that, because I'm not in both branches all the time.
Well, if it was a negative thing, regardless if they did it once that month or 100 times that
Just
month,
not
it was
acceptable.
unacceptable.
Yeah, okay.
If it's a positive thing, they're not going to argue and go,
No.
"I did that one positive thing, but I was shit for the rest of the month."
Yeah.
So I won't worry about it. If they've done one negative thing, doesn't matter whether they've done one or 100 times, it is what it is. I'm pleased it's not reflective, but I don't expect to see it ever. Can we agree on that? Fantastic. Yeah. So hopefully some of you will find that useful. Using examples and trends, so we talked about examples of good behaviour, and how we can use that to say, what I used to see from you is this, I'm not seeing that from you now. So again, giving examples. It's very difficult if somebody has behaved a certain way and you can evidence how that's changed. So for instance, Kaylee, at the point somebody used to walk in, you were always that person that sat and went, "Hi, how can I help?" You don't do that now. Why do you not do that now? Well, nobody else does, and there's only me doing that. Right, okay. Why would you do that, given that you've seen the impact of what that does? You make that person smile, you make them happy, you get positive feedback from that. Just because they're not doing it, why would you not do it? Actually, I would pull that person up on not doing it, because believe you me, they will start to do it, but I need you to lead by example. You were absolutely fantastic, and somebody had earmarked as, Employee of the Month this month. Why would you let somebody else pull your performance down? I wouldn't let anybody get in my way. Why would you let somebody get in your way? Because we wouldn't be having this difficult conversation if that was the case. All right, okay. So, just clear examples. Preparation, we talked about preparation being key. Review their performance, understand what their performance looks like. I've gone into one-to-ones and sat with managers in one-to-ones who've said, I haven't had a chance to check what you did on sales, but I'll look at it afterwards, and I've just kind of scowled at them and thought, I'll never, ever do that again. Why would you walk into a one-to-one where you're doing a review with somebody and not know where they're at? Nonsense, don't bother doing it. Use your targets. So again, your review should be target-based, it should be performance-based, it should be short and snappy, so use those targets. Listening to calls, score against your expectations. So if you're doing a chunkier review, or if something you're working on is customer service, because you understand that person possibly doesn't get For instance, I used to task my portfolio managers, although they weren't intrinsic to growth, I used to task them with giving me 5 new landlord sheets a week, all right? So I might get 5 dead easily by day 2 off one member of staff, and one other member of staff might just drag us 4 in, and it was because their customer service wasn't quite right. I'd work on that, so I might sit and listen to telephone calls. If you don't have call recordings, if you are on Rightmove, you'll have call recordings via Rightmove. So, and what you'll find is, because they're slippery, they'll be really good on all your Rightmove calls because they get introduced and you hear this is a Rightmove call. Oh, this will be recorded. I better act a certain way. It doesn't matter. Why would you act differently? So you've got the expectation set, and that they know a Rightmove call's recorded, so they'll behave really well and they give really good customer service, regardless of whether it's recorded or not. There's your expectation set. Brilliant. Personal feedback, your happy and sad face that I've talked about. I still use that to this day. And comparing performance, like I've said, there's nothing wrong with comparing like for like. You've got 2 PMs, 2 sales negs, 2 lettings negs. Compare performance. Tell me what Katrina's doing that you're not doing, because she is getting these wins. What could we be doing more of? Questioning techniques. You'll have seen me do this massively in some of the role plays and stuff that we did this morning. I asked far more questions than I asked any. Sometimes difficult to drag role play out. Not everybody feels comfortable with it. Also, don't underestimate, which I don't think I've covered off in here, so I'll mention it, the importance of role play with your staff. Do a little bit of role play with them. Just had a conversation with a lady in the room who says one of her apprentices turns his back on her. Now, he's only very young, kind of fresh out of school, and she doesn't know whether or not is he doing it to be rude, or does he not actually understand that you need. So she'll start coaching him and going, you could do this a little bit better, and he'll just sit with his back. I personally would squash that, and the next review I had, I'd pick my chair up and I'd turn my chair around. I'd say, hiya, how's this month been? And he'd be sat, what are we going? How do you think he's getting on? And then I'd look at his confused face and I'd go, not nice, is it? Oh, what do you mean? That's what I find that you do to me when I'm training you. How did that feel? Not great, because like, you weren't looking at it and it was just a bit strange. Brilliant. So we won't do that no more. I won't do it to you, you won't do it to me. Fantastic. Never underestimate the power of a bit of role play as well. What you'll find is if you role play a scenario with your staff members, they'll tell you, they'll do it perfectly well, and they'll tell you the procedure and they'll tell you what they should have done. I use that to start with when I know they haven't done something. So I'd go, talk us through this. So if I was a landlord and this happened, tells what I'm going to be the landlord, so I've done this. Would you just, where he said, I'm not bothered, just get them out, or what would you do there? No, I wouldn't, because the procedure says we'll do this. And I go, I'm so relieved, but I'm also confused. Why did you not do that then in this recent situation? It's so much more effective, because they've told you what they should do. So why have you not done it? So it's just, you've chosen not to do it yet. So we know what to do. We don't need any training. We've chosen not to do it. That'll never happen again, and we'll find ourselves in a disciplinary hearing. Yeah, okay, quashed quickly. Tell me why I'm seeing an attitude in your towards your work. Give examples of that. Tell me what your understanding is of this particular procedure. Let them do that, and then quash it. Now tell me why it wasn't followed. Tell me why, what. All of those things are fantastic in one-to-ones. Get used to using them. We sometimes, particularly with quiet members of staff or members of staff that aren't as confident, we talk for them. Get used to not talking for them. Get used to silences. Get used to pauses. It's absolutely fine. Questioning techniques. Closed questions again are great. I ask why, I ask tell me, and then the closed questions, conversations that I have is, so, if I, will you? Yes. Be perfect. We did it, I think, in someone's role play this morning. So if you start doing this, I'll start giving you more praise. Does that sound fair? Yes. Very, very easy. And as well, stops you having to do loads of writing. Connor confirmed that if I did this, then he's going to do this. Closed it down. Next month, if you say the same again, well, I did that, Connor. I did what we said we were going to do, and that I give you that bit of coaching, or I get, tell me why you didn't do your bit. Okay. Don't ever be caught up with not doing what you said you were going to do. If you've said you're going to do something, by hell or high water, make sure you've done it, because they'll love it if you don't. your poor members of staff who you're performing will be praying you don't do what you said you're going to do, because they'll throw it back at you the first opportunity they've got. Don't ever give them that wriggle room, because it's the worst feeling in the world. Okay, do you understand the arrears chasing procedure? Can I expect you to follow the procedure without exception? Can I expect, therefore, to see a reduction in the arrears? So we're asking them what it is. We're asking, can we expect them to follow it? And then we're asking them, can we expect to see the performance off the back of it? Yes, yes, yes. Do you know what? Very rarely will they then walk out of there and not do it, because they've kind of made a commitment to you. They've told you they know what they need to be doing. They've told you that they're going to do it, and they've told you what the result's going to be. What you'll find is, more than likely, is if they know what it is they've got to do and they're doing it and they're not getting the result, they'll come and tell you, because they'll go, oh, I said I was going to do that and I'm doing it, but I'm not getting the result. And that's when they'll come and say, I'm doing that and I'm doing what I said I was going to do, but I'm not seeing the result. That's fine, because now you've got a willing member of staff who's coming to you and you go, right, okay, I'm pleased you're doing it. Let me sit in and listen to how you're doing it, and let me see if I can give you some coaching. You get a lot of buyback from people doing it that way. And are you confident in hitting your target? So a lot of the questions I'll ask is, can I expect to see that? And how confident are you in delivering that? So it's just confirming everything that you when you're setting your expectations, you're confirming all the way. I love that image. Getting comfortable with uncomfortable. I don't know where you got that from, John. I think it's the fight or flight thing is when I looked at it. I tried to kind of have a look at a little bit of theory behind it, and I think the one that I can give is the whole fight or flight thing. My partner's a boxing coach, and when I was speaking to him a little bit about the event and stuff, and he said, well, it's exactly the same as what my fighters do. They'll train and they know what they should be doing and they're fit and they're ready for it. And then actually when it comes to it, a lot of them, regardless of how much work they've put in, would go, I'm not doing this. But they know they can, it's what they've trained for, and they know the worst thing is the ones that do opt out or do kind of fold under the pressure will absolutely kick themselves afterwards. And that's what we do. That's exactly what we do. We know what we should be doing and we get ourselves geared up. We're definitely going to do it. And then we get into the situation and it's difficult and we go, I'm going to opt out. We kick ourselves afterwards. We might not tell anybody that that's what we've done because we might be a little bit embarrassed about doing it because we should know better. But that's what we do. We avoid it. That's exactly what we do. We avoid it and we'll talk ourselves into, I need to do this and this is much more important. Very rarely will anything else come before staff performance. Very rarely. Because if your staff aren't performing, your business isn't performing. If your business isn't performing, you aren't making money. So you tell me what takes priority over that. Other than personal issues, health, all of that kind of thing, understandably, yes. In denial, that's what we do. We don't need to do this. It's fine, they're going to turn a corner and things will get better. How many people have done nothing and things have gotten better? Doesn't happen, doesn't. Remember 3 things. It's normal. It's normal to feel the way you feel. I can remember not dare telling John that I was uncomfortable with doing one-to-ones because he was my boss and I wanted him to think I was brilliant at everything I did. Reality is, absolutely not. Have the same fears, same concerns, same insecurities as everybody else. And it's normal and it's okay. And once I got to grips with actually it's normal, it's okay, and lots of people feel like that. It made it feel acceptable and therefore made it be something I was allowed to work on and something I was allowed to develop and something that actually if everybody feels like this but a lot of people do it, well they must be getting over it, so I can get over it. And you can change it. I was the most indirect person, the fluffiest person, the nicest nurturing person ever, and I'd like to think I haven't lost that side of us, but what I do understand is there is a need sometimes for uncomfortable, there is a need for direct approach, there is a need sometimes to just go, do you know what, I've given you all I can give you, unfortunately we're going to have to part ways and I'm super disappointed because I couldn't have done any more. And you will ask yourself the question after you've left whether you could have done more, and the answer will be yes, and you're going to be disappointed with yourself. I'm not disappointed in myself though. and it does get easier. It really, really does. The more you do anything, and John talked about this, I didn't again understand the theory, which he always does, but I do know it does. By putting it into practice and doing it regularly, it does get easy with every one-to-one. I really look forward to one-to-ones. I love coaching one-to-ones. I'll sit in their one-to-ones and I know they're absolutely bricking it because I'm sitting with them and they probably know the last one-to-one wasn't fantastic and how am I going to pick up the pieces, and Adele's going to think, yes I am, and I'm kind of going, right, we need to get better at that, but I also say to them, I appreciate where you're at, but believe you me, and they'll go, I want to be like you, and I go, well, if we're going to do that, then we're going to have to make some changes, and this is what it looks like, but it definitely gets easier, making the change. Start by getting comfortable with your silences. We've looked at that. Silences are lovely. I love them. They're brilliant because what it means is you've got them thinking. What it means is they're reflecting on things, and what it means is you've got a point, because I'm telling you now, if you haven't got a point, there'll be no silence, because they go, but if you've got a silence, they're really starting to think. They're looking for a way out of that situation. Silences are much more uncomfortable for them. Although I don't like making people feel uncomfortable, what I do appreciate is the impact of making somebody feel uncomfortable. What do you think the impact of them feeling uncomfortable in their one-to-one is?
Change your behaviour.
They won't want it to happen again.
They won't want it to happen again. Do I want it to happen again? No, I hate it. But what I understand is, by allowing these silences, they're less likely to come in and have to discuss the same thing. Win-win. I don't want to discuss it. You don't want to discuss it. Let's have this little silence. Let's make you feel uncomfortable with a view that that won't ever happen again. Know when to wait as well. This is something I've done with Tony fairly recently. Sometimes if we've got that level of emotional intelligence, one of the worst things we feel, I think we talked about this actually, we feel, particularly as well if you're kinesthetic, which I am heavily, will feel, and I'm a blue communicator as well, everything's on gut and everything's on how I feel about things. It can actually hold us back in some instances because I certainly was, I can be too sympathetic to, oh, they're struggling here, I want to help them out. Well, I'll tell you what you haven't done and why you haven't hit that target. It's because of this. And what we're going to do is, we're going to do this and I'm going to do that. What are they going to possibly learn from that? I've just made it super, super easy. And actually, I expect to say that next month, the month after, the month after. No, you've just made your job super hard. And do you know what? The realisation is they're not bothered about making your job super hard. Yeah? So why are we bothered about filling silences and closing gaps? Don't be.
What if you both sit there in silence for 10 minutes?
Don't sit in silence for 10 minutes. You can interject with, and what I always would, I'm pleased you're sitting quiet, because what that tells me is you know what I'm saying is right. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. This is what it looks like. So don't get me wrong, I'm not an absolute bitch. But I won't overdo it. So if they're really, really struggling, they look like, about to get upset, okay, I appreciate that you're silent, and you know what, I'm pleased about that, because it tells me you're really thinking, and the penny's starting to drop, which is good. That's what I wanted out of today, the penny to drop for you to understand your behaviour and the impact it's had, so we can move forward. Correct? Yeah, brilliant.
If you had a staff member with multiple issues, are you going to just go through this process in a one-to-one, make them feel uncomfortable, resolve that, and then just literally make them feel shit again about something else? Basically?
I'll go through that process with everything that they need to go through, because what I want to do is, and what I always say to them is, the reason that it's uncomfortable for you is because I am invested in your performance, I am invested in your journey, and I know this is uncomfortable for you, but believe you me, we'll get our quickest wins. If I just let you meander on and pick you up every now and again, but praised you, give you a bit of a shit sandwich, I'll tell you something bad, but I'll tell you something good. Nonsense. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. I would be doing you an injustice, because you'll never improve. So although this is uncomfortable for you, it's uncomfortable for me. The reason I'm prepared to do it is I want you to get better, and I want you to get better quicker, because I don't want to have this conversation again. Now I expect our next one-to-one to look very, very different. So what you're doing is you're also saying, don't dread your next one-to-one and start panicking looking for another job. Look at making those changes and be excited for your next one-to-one, because you'll see somebody sitting going, I did that like you said, and I did that, and there'll be incremental changes. It won't change the world, but it'll be incremental changes. talk less, ask more. I think, you know, that's something that I never used to do. I do that all of the time now. You wouldn't know because I probably spoke about 10 hours over the last 2 days. However, I do that. We're definitely within managing staff. Be direct in your approach. Don't fluff. I'm a fluffer. Believe you me, I'd love to fluff all day long, but it doesn't always get you the impact that you need. Oops. Have we got... I think we are, because this is a really quick one. Can we, and we've done something on open and probing questions, but given off the back of what we've discussed, can we list at least one, let's say, open question and one closed question that you could use during your review? You can use a real life example, and all I do is a quick round the room to see what we've got, yeah? Thank you.